The rain was coming down in sheets, relentless, heavy, and loud, like the sky had decided to empty itself all at once. It turned the city streets into rivers, flooded the sidewalks, and blurred the traffic lights into smeared bands of red and green. Headlights cut through the downpour in shaky beams, but even those couldn't push the darkness back. You could barely see a few feet ahead, and still, people moved, because life doesn't pause for storms. Before we continue, let us know where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories reach. Asher Cole, 32, kept his head down and pushed forward across the bridge, his boots splashing through shallow pools that formed on the walkway. His red button-down shirt was soaked through, clinging to his chest and arms. His dark hair lay plastered against his forehead. In his arms, his 3-year-old son Liam slept, heavy and warm against him. Liam's small body was wrapped in a red blanket, the edges pulled up under his chin. His face was turned into Asher's shoulder, and even the thunder of rain couldn't wake him. That kind of sleep only came from a day that took everything out of a child. Asher adjusted his grip, careful not to jostle him. Liam had fallen asleep the moment Asher picked him up from daycare, caring exhausted from another day at the unreliable place Asher could barely afford. But barely afford was still better than not at all. Asher worked night shifts at the hospital. When you worked nights and had no one else to watch your kid, you did what you had to do. That simple rule had become the foundation of his entire life. They were heading home to their tiny apartment, too small, too old, too quiet. Asher would have maybe 2 hours to sleep before his next shift started. 2 hours if Liam stayed asleep. 2 hours if Asher didn't spend the whole time staring at the ceiling, calculating bills and wondering how long he could keep this up, because this was his life now. It had been for the past year, ever since Liam's mother decided motherhood was on T for her and left without a backward glance. No note, no explanation, just gone. Asher didn't talk about it much. Not to co-workers, not to acquaintances, not even to himself most days. It hurt too much, and there wasn't time for pain when someone depended on you to keep moving. He was lost in thoughts of rent and daycare and the constant, grinding exhaustion, wondering how much longer he could hold everything together when he saw her. A woman stood on the wrong side of the bridge railing. For a split second, Asher's brain refused to understand what he was seeing. The image didn't match the rest of the night cars creeping along behind him. Rain, city noise. But she was there, real, balanced in the most dangerous place. Her hands gripped the cold metal. Her body leaned forward over the dark water below. She wore a silver strap-fitted dress, soaked by the storm, clinging to her like it had been painted on, and her blonde hair was loose up and hanging in wet strands around her face and neck. Even from a distance, Asher could see she was young mid-20s, maybe on. She was crying. His heart stopped. Then it started pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. "Don't jump." The words tore out of him before he could think. "Please don't jump." Her head whipped around. For a moment, they just stared at each other through the rain. Asher saw desperation in her face, pain so raw it made his chest ache. The kind of pain you could feel without knowing a single detail. Like standing too close to a fire. "Stay there," Asher called out, already moving toward her. "Please, just stay there. Don't move." "Go away," she said, her voice breaking. "Just leave me alone. There's nothing you can do." "I can listen," Asher said, approaching slowly, carefully, like one wrong move might shatter her. Liam stirred against his shoulder, and Asher tightened the blanket around him, keeping his son secure. "I can stand here in the rain with you," Asher continued. "Whatever you need. Just, please, don't do this. Why do you care?" The woman's face crumpled. "You don't even know me. I don't need to know you to care if you live or die," Asher said. He was close, now close enough to see her properly. She was beautiful, yes, but that wasn't what made him stop. It was the way she looked young and lost. Like she'd been carrying too much for too long, and finally couldn't stand upright under it anymore. "Please," Asher said, keeping his voice gentle but steady. "Come back over the railing. We can talk. Or not talk. Whatever you want." Her eyes flicked down and landed on Liam for the first time. "You have a child," she whispered, and something shifted in her expression, like shame, like horror. "Oh God," she said, voice trembling. "You have a child, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You shouldn't see this. You should go." "He's asleep," Asher said. "Well, I'm not going anywhere without you." He took a breath. "What's your name?" "Why does it matter?" She snapped, but her anger collapsed into tears immediately after. Because you matter, Asher said simply. You're a person with a name and a life, and a people who care about you. Tell me your name, please. She was silent for a long moment. Then, so quietly Asher almost didn't hear it over the rain, she whispered, Isabella. Isabella, Asher repeated, like saying it anchored her to the world. I'm Asher, he said. This is Liam. He shifted Liam slightly, careful not to wake him. Isabella, whatever you're going through, it's not worth this. I promise you it's not. You don't understand, she said, shaking her head. You can't understand. Then help me understand, Asher said. Tell me what brought you here tonight. Isabella's hands tightened on the railing. Her shoulders shook. Everything, she whispered. Then, like the dam broke, the words came fast, broken, messy, desperate. I lost everything. My company, my reputation, everything I built. It's all gone. Your company? Asher asked carefully. Isabella let out a harsh laugh that sounded like a sob. I was the CEO of a tech startup, Isabella Tech, she said. We were going to change the world. Everyone believed in us. Investors gave us millions. Her voice cracked, and I trusted the wrong person, my business partner. He stole money, made deals behind my back, destroyed everything. Asher's chest tightened as he listened. Now the company's bankrupt. Isabella continued. Investors are suing me personally, and my name is all over the news like I'm some kind of fraud. She shook her head, tears blending with rain. I'm not a fraud. I didn't know what he was doing, but no one believes me. Asher felt his heart break for her. I'm so sorry, he said quietly. Sorry doesn't fix it, Isabella snapped, then immediately crumbled again. I've lost everything. My business, my savings, gone fighting lawsuits, my apartment, my friends. They believe the lies. She looked down at the dark water below, her voice hollow. I have nothing left. I'm nothing without my company. I don't know who I am if I'm not that person anymore. Asher stepped closer still, not touching her, but close enough for her to feel she wasn't alone. You're Isabella, he said firmly. You're a person who built something from nothing. A person who had a dream big enough that people invested millions in it. He swallowed, his voice steadying. A person who's going through the worst time of her life, but who's still standing here talking to me instead of letting go. That's who you are. Isabella's breath hitched. I can't do this, she whispered. I can't start over. I can't face everyone. I can't. Yes, you can, Asher said, and the firmness in his voice surprised even him. He moved a half step closer. Isabella, look at me. She hesitated, then lifted her eyes. Look at Liam. Her gaze flicked to the sleeping child, the tiny rise and fall of his chest under the blanket. A year ago, Asher began, voice quiet now. My girlfriend left us. No warning, no explanation. She just decided she didn't want to be a mother anymore, and she left. He breathed out slowly, like he'd been holding that sentence in his lungs for a year. I was working full-time, and suddenly I'm a single parent with a toddler and no support system and no idea what I'm doing. I work nights at a hospital. I make barely enough to cover rent and daycare. He laughed once, bitter and exhausted, and I'm so tired sometimes I can't remember what day it is. He swallowed hard. There have been nights when I didn't think I could do it anymore. Nights when I was so overwhelmed I wanted to disappear. His eyes dropped to Liam, but I didn't, because he needs me. Asher's voice softened. He was speaking directly into the storm. Even when life is impossibly hard, there are still moments of light. Liam's laugh, the way he hugs me when I pick him up, the way he says, "Love you, Daddy," before bed. He blinked against rain and emotion. Those moments, they make it worth fighting through the hard parts. Isabella was crying harder, not loud, shaking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than her chest. I don't have anyone, she whispered. No Liam, no one who needs me, no reason to keep going. You have you, Asher said. That's reason enough. He extended his free hand toward her. Palm up, please, he said. Take my hand. Come back over the railing. He kept his hand steady, even though his muscles ached from holding Liam. Give yourself a chance to rebuild, Asher continued. To find new dreams, to discover who you are now. Please. Isabella stared at his hand like it was a lifeline and a question at the same time. Why do you care so much? She choked out. You said yourself you're barely surviving. You don't need my problems. Asher's eyes held hers. Maybe I need to help you, he said. Maybe that's my reason tonight. He nodded toward Liam. Maybe we all need to be needed. To know what we do matters to someone. His voice dropped into something almost fierce with sincerity. You matter to me, Isabella. Right now, in this moment, you matter. Please, don't go. The rain poured down on all of them. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement, creating halos in the darkness. Time stretched, one breath, then another. Then, slowly, Isabella reached out, and she took Asher's hand. Asher tightened his grip immediately, solid and steady. He helped her climb back over the railing, guiding her carefully, step by step. The moment her feet touched the safe side of the bridge, her knees buckled. She collapsed. Asher caught her with his free arm, Liam still secure against his shoulder. Isabella sobbed against his chest, shaking so hard her whole body trembled. I've got you, Asher murmured. You're okay. You're safe. I've got you. He stood there in the rain until Isabella's sobs quieted into exhausted, broken cliffs. Then Asher called 911, explained what happened, and waited with her until help arrived. When the paramedics came, they spoke gently to Isabella. They wanted to take her to the hospital for evaluation, and Isabella too, exhausted to protest, agreed before they loaded her into the ambulance. She looked at Asher, eyes swollen and red. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know why you stopped, but thank you. Asher nodded, his throat tight. Take care of yourself, he said. Promise me. I promise, Isabella whispered. Asher watched the ambulance drive away, its lights disappearing into the storm. Then he carried Liam home through the rain. He was even later than usual, even more exhausted, but somehow he felt lighter. Like stopping for Isabella had reminded him of something important. Even in the darkest moments, connection matters. Compassion matters. Showing up for another human being matters. 3 days later, Karasha was at work, doing rounds, checking on patients, trying to stay awake despite having slept maybe 3 hours total in the past 2 days. A woman walked into the hospital. He didn't recognize her at first. She wore jeans and a simple sweater. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. She looked younger than she had on the bridge, less polished, but somehow more real. Asher, she said softly. He turned, his eyes widened. Isabella, I needed to find you, she said. To thank you properly. To tell you. She took a breath, steadying herself. The hospital made me stay for evaluation. They had me talk to a counselor. She swallowed. And I've been thinking about what you said, about starting over, about finding new dreams. Asher nodded slowly. I'm glad you're okay. I'm not okay, Isabella admitted. Not yet. But I'm getting there. She pulled out a piece of paper. This is my new number, she said. I'm staying with a friend while I figure things out. Then she looked at him, vulnerable, hopeful. And I wanted to ask you something. Asher waited. Can I take you to dinner? She asked. You and Liam. To say thank you. Asher hesitated. You don't need to. I want to, Isabella said quickly. Please, let me thank you. Let me meet Liam properly when he's awake. Her voice caught. Let me have a reason to keep going, she whispered. Meeting you. Seeing you with your son. Hearing how you keep fighting even when it's hard. It gave me hope. She blinked back tears. Let me hold on to that hope. Please. And so Asher agreed. Dinner turned into a walk in the park. That turned into Isabella offering to watch Liam one evening, so Asher could sleep. That turned into regular meets. Isabella, Asher, and Liam becoming an unexpected unit. Over the next months, Isabella slowly rebuilt her life. She took a job at a non-profit, helping small business owners, using her experience to guide people through challenges. She testified against her former business partner, who was eventually convicted of fraud. She started going to therapy, working through trauma, loss, and that crushing identity crisis. And through it all, Asher was there, not trying to fix her, not pushing her, just present, a friend, proof that good people still existed. One evening, they sat on a bench while Liam played nearby. Why did you help me? Isabella asked quietly. You had every reason to keep walking that night. You had your own problems. Asher was quiet for a long moment. Cliffs, I know what it feels like to feel alone, he said finally. To feel like you're drowning and no one sees. He exhaled. And I thought, if I could just be someone who sees her, who acknowledges her pain, maybe that would be enough. Maybe that would give you one reason to choose life. Isabella's eyes filled again. It was enough, she whispered. It was more than enough. She turned to face him fully. Asher, I need to tell you something. He looked at her. That night on the bridge, Isabella said, voice trembling, I had made my decision. She swallowed hard. I was just waiting for the right moment. Asher's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. And then I heard your voice, she continued, and I saw you holding Liam, and I thought, her voice broke. Here's this man who has every reason to be angry at the world to give up, and he's stopping in the rain to help a complete stranger. She wiped her cheek. If he can keep going, maybe I can too. Asher let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. I'm glad you did, he said softly. Isabella laughed weakly through tears. I'm glad you stopped. She reached over and took his hand. Asher, she whispered, is it crazy that I'm falling in love with you? Asher blinked, surprised. We met in the worst possible circumstances, Isabella continued. I was literally ready to end my life. That's not exactly a romantic beginning. Asher smiled, his first real smile in weeks. I think, he said, it's the most honest beginning I've ever had. Isabella stared at him. You've seen me at my worst, Asher continued, exhausted and barely holding it together. I've seen you in your darkest moment. He squeezed her hand, and we both chose to show up for each other anyway. He shook his head gently. That's not crazy. That's real. Isabella's lips trembled into a smile. So, you feel it too? Asher nodded. Yeah, I feel it, too. They were married a year later. A small ceremony, close friends, and the emperors can be serving as ring-bearer, carrying the rings down the aisle like it was the most important job in the world. By then, Isabella had started her own consulting firm, helping businesses recover from crisis. Asher had been promoted at the hospital and could finally afford decent childcare and a bigger apartment. But more than professional success, they had built something neither of them expected to find, a family, a real one, built on honesty, vulnerability, and the choice to keep showing up even when it was hard. On their first anniversary, they went back to the bridge. It was raining again, though not as hard as that night. They stood at the spot where Isabella had been standing, where Asher's voice had cut through the storm. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I jumped? Isabella asked quietly. Asher's throat tightened. Every day, he admitted. And I'm grateful every day that you didn't. Me too, Isabella whispered. She looked at him. You know what I realized that night? She said, I thought I had lost everything. My company, my reputation, my identity. I thought those things were all I was. She breathed in slowly. But you showed me I was wrong. She smiled faintly. Those were things I had, not things I am. Asher nodded, listening. The person I am is still here, Isabella continued. Still capable of building and dreaming, and loving. Her eyes shimmered. I just needed someone to help me see that. Asher squeezed her hand. You did the same for me, he said quietly. Before I met you, I was just surviving, working, taking care of Liam, barely keeping my head above water. He looked at the city lights. He reminded me life could be more than that. I could have dreams again. A partner, someone to share the burden, and the joy. Liam now, tugged on Asher's hand. Daddy, can we go home now? He asked. I'm cold. Asher lifted him, easily. Of course, buddy, let's go home. As they walked away from the bridge, Isabella looked back one more time at the spot that had almost been the end of her story. Instead, it had been the beginning of everything that mattered. She had been ready to let go, convinced she had no reason to live, and a struggling single dad with a sleeping toddler had stopped in the rain to tell her she was wrong, to offer her his hand, his compassion, his refusal to let her give up. That night changed both their lives. Asher went from barely surviving to actually living, with someone who understood struggle and resilience. Isabella went from wanting to disappear to building a new life fuller and more meaningful than anything she'd had before. They saved each other, not in some grand dramatic gesture, but in the quiet, persistent way real saving happens, by showing up, by refusing to give up, by believing in each other when they couldn't believe in themselves. Sometimes the darkest moments lead to the brightest beginnings. Sometimes the worst nights of our lives are actually the first chapters of our best stories. Sometimes a stranger's compassion is exactly the lifeline. We need to choose life over despair. One rainy night, one moment of kindness, one choice to stop and care. That's all it took to change two lives forever. Sometimes, if this story touched your heart, don't just move on. Like this video so YouTube shows it to someone who might need hope today. Subscribe for more emotional, life-changing stories every week. Comment, "I choose hope, I want," to see how many of us are here together. Share this with a friend who's been struggling silently.